So Transformer Tuesday has concluded, and we have the Hasbro Pulse fan stream Haslab reveal to talk about today. A lot of stuff to break down and unpack. Evan and BMAC presenting our brand new item that is going to be hitting our wallets harder than you could imagine. So what did they talk about? Well, the cat is out of the bag, and I have opinions, both very good and, we always got to do the inside baseball look at it from a business standpoint, like we always have to. That's why you guys tune in here. Not just it's amazing, take my money. It is amazing. But let's get into it. Let's talk about the Transformers Haslab Robots in Disguise, a.k.a. car robots, as I will always love to call it. Omega Prime, a.k.a. Godfire Convoy. So we got two commander classes in Fire Convoy, a.k.a. Optimus Prime, and God Magnus, a.k.a. Ultra Magnus, and a deluxe class Bluebolt. Nice little twist there we'll get into in a moment. All packaged into one Haslab item, continuing pretty much what they did with Victory Saber, doing a two-piece combiner with some extras for $250 more or less, $249.99, $250 for simple math, which we'll get into the math and the breakdown in a moment. So, my first reactions, and I'll be honest with you, as someone that owns the originals multiple times over, because I own the original car robot version, then I bought the localized American version, which had slight tweaks and different sound effects and stuff. Then I had the, I think it was the Walmart exclusive 2-pack. They did a Cybertron 2-pack. I have the yellow I've messed with this mold, the original mold, and those characters and those toys many times over. And looking at this one, in all honesty, it doesn't reinvent the wheel too much. It looks like it transforms 100% part for part, piece for piece as the original. The thing is with this case, as opposed to, let's say, Victory Saber, Death Source, or even a Unicron, the removal of time between the original toy and this one is not too big. I know you're a Proto Man. It's like a 20-year gap easily. Yeah, but the technology and, the modern Transformer designs that we're used to today was already baked in with a lot of those Beast Wars Neo and car robots in disguise designs, that super hyper articulation and, everything like that. So when I looked at it, I was like, well, it's not too much different from the original. The original toys were very animation accurate, correct to begin with, short of a few proportions. So they did a really good job the first time around. So what would you be giving me this time around that makes it significantly better from the original? When we looked at, like, let's say the Commander class Armada Optimus Prime, there clearly was a gap of screen accuracy to the toyetic Armada toys that we got back in 2003, 2004. And there was a need to do something more animation accurate. This one here, there is a slight proportion tweak, but at the end of the day, it really feels like I'm getting the same item more or less, just much more taller and with slight different proportions and slightly more articulation. No surprise, according to Evan, both the original Fire Convoy toy, Optimus Prime from Robots in Disguise Car Robots, was done by Yuki-san back in the day, and Yuki-san is the one working on this one, so the DNA is still there of the original. Again, it looks like a slightly better version with more bells and whistles. I'll get deeper into that. Number one of the big improvements is the lack of rubber tires, instead using a softer ABS kind of plastic tire, so tires won't dry out and dry rot. And I use the term tire flattening, which is if you leave characters in vehicle mode, one side of the tire completely flattens out and then dries out depending on where you store them. So that won't happen. So that's a nice addition. Not having the electronics isn't a positive or a negative. Luckily, by the time car robots did electronics, they didn't hinder too much the transformations. A lot of the sound effects and light up stuff was confined to a small area with a pill battery, so they're able to get away with it. I kind of would have liked, honestly, light up, back robot mode, spoiler for Optimus Prime, Fire Convoy, but it's not going to kill me. It looks great. Again, the big improvement is, like, they Kind of flared out the chest for articulation, which does look kind of weird when Evan was messing with it. I hope it looks much nicer in person. Ankle tilts, but otherwise kind of really hitting everything the original did, in a lot of ways. I mean, maybe if there was like super articulated fingers or something for expressiveness, but otherwise more or less the original thing. And even when they show like the fire truck mode and even the fire truck base mode, it just kind of looks like the original. There really is no reinventing of the wheel there. I mean, the big change was that the fire truck's chair at the bottom of the ladder and the bucket at the top, while it originally was made to fit the scale of Diaclone drivers because it was 2001 and they were kind of throwing back to those origins of Transformers, now they could hold Titan Masters. So if you have some old Titan Masters kicking around, those could kind of sit in there, which is a nice touch. It's kind of modernizing it. And because it is larger than the original, they could get away with doing that and not making the scale look weird in the bucket and the fire truck chair. The missile function that the original toy had, which I always thought was incredible. It used to rain missiles. You pushed one button and it shot like 4 missiles at once raining down on you. Well, they kind of obviously gutted the spring-loaded missile function, and now it's just made for blast effects. So that's just kind of the modern way that we have our toys now. Less toyetic, more display and photography, which again, I'm not going to complain about that. It makes sense. It's just the modern evolution of toy collecting today. They're not going to put spring-loaded stuff. The in the smaller robot mode, the shoulder missile kind of gimmick that they had is maintained there. And again, it uses 5mm ports, so that means those shoulder missiles could also be used on all your other 5mm port figures. That's just how things are today. So more customization, having fun with those pieces. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the combiner pieces to make Super Fire Convoy, aka Super Optimus Prime, will also have 5mm pegs, no doubt. And you could I'm pretty sure someone's going to figure out a way to put all that armor on other characters, on fossilizers and armorizers and weaponizers and all of that. Modulators and Junkions with armor and everything. Who knows? It's going to be wacky. But again, more or less the same transformation when he was showing hey, this is how we make Super Optimus Prime. Again, it's literally the same transformation. If you've messed with that original toy, it's one for one that. There's probably like 1 or 2 little folds that might be different because now there's like a little bit more articulation. But otherwise, it feels like the same thing. I've messed with like different versions of G1 Optimus Prime, 3 different kinds of masterpieces, Robot Masters, and different kind of classic-esque versions, whether it be Earthrise or even the Universe. And they always figured out a way to somehow twist and turn and make it different every time around. This really feels the same. It could be a criticism. Some people could read that from my words. Or it could be, it ain't broke, don't fix it. Which it could be more of that because it was already perfect to begin with. Love that design. Again, it's just anime portions. You know what I mean? Like it's let's make the legs a little wider, the forearms a little wider, give it more of that anime proportion. But otherwise, it's the same figure, 100%. And because it's larger now and they got those more buffer barrel chest animated proportions, now the big ladder that normally would be on the back of Super Fire Convoy, Super Optimus Prime, now doesn't have to be folded on the back. Now it could be just used as the tripod on the back as it always was. I like the and this continues the tradition that was started with the Commander class Armada Optimus Prime. The original Armada Optimus Prime, it had a matrix of leadership, but it was not removable. It was just sculpted in. Same thing with the original Car Robot stuff. Had an Energon matrix in Optimus Prime's chest. It was not removable, just sculpted in. Now it is removable and has an extra wrinkle in that it's removable. It comes with 2 of them, and you could put that extra matrix into the other included Commander class scaled character, Ultra Magnus, aka God Magnus. So he has a little spot that you could put the matrix in there too, because in the story he was supposed to be the leader of the Sabatrons or the Autobots. And that did not happen, but he does have a slot for when you want to put the Energon Matrix in there. It's going to come with 2 of them, so both of them get to have Energon Matrixes if needed. I do find his face looks a little odd. I was kind of hoping for something that really had that stern grin, almost like suicidal, crazy face that Ultra Magnus had in the show. This one looks kind of weird. Maybe it's just, again, the digital mock-ups and the prototypes, and the final product will look better. Again, also Commander class height. So it's 2 Commander class figures, also has ankle tilts and more articulation than the original toy. again, I dig it. Ultra Magnus, the original, was always kind of more the weaker of the two because it had to be a combiner element and had to house a lot of stuff. But I still dig it. I still think it looks good. But it's just more or less just the same toy with slightly more anime proportions. And even the way the transformation looks in the alt mode, there's no surprises there with a lot of that. Yuki-san, when they were going to be tackling Ultra Magnus's weapon, the Bluebolt, came back with, hey, why don't we do this as a weaponizer? We'll make it a little transformable element. Again, looking at stuff like the Arc, where why don't we take a piece of the Arc and just kind of turn that into a character? And that's where we got like that mainframe looking part of Teletran and stuff. And it's something where they did the same thing here with Bluebolt, where they're like, hey, why don't we take Bluebolt? We'll make him a deluxe class weaponizer, and then we could turn him into something. And I'm telling you, I look at Bluebolt and I'm like, man, that looks like the Armada Space Minicon team member Astroscope, who was like that satellite. Looks so much like him. So I'm just kind of going like, man, oh man, like, there's probably something there. There's probably some DNA there. And, but it looks like Astroscope, but I dig it. They could have like, we're just going to include it as a weapon, but making it a little extra transformable thing. And that'll go into also when we talk about price. They also mentioned that Bluebolt also exists to kind of fill the gaps in Ultra Magnus. The original toy had a ton of gaps in him. That was just because he's a combiner element piece. It's just kind of the name of the game. Kind of the same thing here. There's going to be gaps in that robot mode, so it could be filled out by having Bluebolt there. Now let's talk about how it's going to be backed, prices, everything. Oh, I probably should mention too that they said there's going to be chrome used on it, vac metal. The front of Ultra Magnus's alt mode, and of course the chest that makes the Godfire convoy will be blue vac metal. The ears on the Super Optimus and stuff, those gold vac metal ears will be there. A lot of good paint hits and everything. So price, like we said, is going to be $249.99, $250. It's going to take 10,000 backers to make this happen, and we have until March 14th, just before midnight, 11:59. To get it done. And then afterwards, we're going to get the other stuff. We're going to get all the other stuff too. So, they mentioned like, this is great. It could do the handshake thing. The original toy could do that too. So that wasn't really, I feel like a lot of this stuff already the original toy does. So there isn't reinventing the wheel too much. But it looks great. They were showing the alt, again, they were showing that combined mode. There's less kibble for the Godfire convoy mold. So that kind of works and everything. They hide the Magnus head in that combined mode too. And then there's the upper tiers. Well, okay, tier 1, 13,000 backers. You get the Godfire sword, aka the Magnus blade, the Matrix blade, whatever the dub called it, but it was the Godfire sword. I think it was called the Matrix blade. And again, just like it looks exactly like the original. Now you don't have to like spend big money to get it or a third party one. It looks like the original, which was just a massive sword. This one here is going to measure at almost 24 inches, so pretty huge, considering that the original toy is, almost half that. So you get this huge, humongous sword. Hey, that's great because now you don't have to buy through a third party or an expensive secondary market thing. But that's also a tier 1 backer thing if they get to that. And then you got the space bridge, which I think that's cool. I've never been a fan of these of stands in general. I mean, this goes all the way back to Masterpieces. I've always kind of just kept them in the box because I always keep them in robot mode, and the stands are usually kind of wasted. I think the only time I ever really, used it in my displays was like Black Arachnia stand with the webbing and everything, because that's kind of cool to have with her. It brings character to the robot mode, and you could kind of pose her on it. But this one here, I kind of dig it in that because while they are stands, they could also be used. Also, you connect them together, and you get the Cybertron Netto, which was the Cybertron Net bridge or road in Car Robots, also known as the Global Space Bridge in the dub of Robots in the Skies. And while I probably won't use these with these two figures, I could probably take some really good photography with the original Car Brothers and stuff and do some really nice photography with the Space Bridge here with that. So that's pretty hype. So I kind of dig that. It's the first time I actually care about some stands, in all honesty. So that's pretty cool. And that's going to be at $16,000 to get those as a backer. There's probably going to be a third one. You know how it always is. They show two extended tier ones, and then when they get to like 10 days before this is all over, they'll show you a third backing item, a tier 3, and it's going to be, maybe it'll be some spy changers. Maybe it'll be an Ai-chan figure. Oh my God, Tai, Ai-chan, that would sign me up right there instead of getting a Wonder Festival one that costs a ton of money. So I'd be down for something like that, but we'll see. There's definitely going to be a tier 3. You know how it is. We've seen it already before historically. They'll throw something in at the last second that'll push it up there. And they said that if you're a premium Hasbro Pulse member, you also get free shipping. So, hey, that's great. Now let's talk about the good. Let's talk about the bad. Like I said, all the good. I love Car Robots. I love it to death. I think it has the best Transformer theme song out of all Transformer theme songs. Hono no Overdrive, absolutely amazing. Love those designs. It brought back Transformers to its origins, and I think that it's just everything's amazing about it. The designs are great, the show is great, the voice acting is great, and the toys were incredible. Does this reinvent the wheel? Very little. Again, it's more or less the same toy, but just remastered, I guess is the best way to put it. There's no big new surprises, where when I messed with Star Saber, being someone who owned the original and different iterations from Robot Masters or Masterpiece, there was stuff that felt different. Deathsaurus was night and day compared to the original. I mean, the original was a block. So, at least there was new things that were brought to the table. This one feels like it's going to be more or less the same. So there's kind of that, but I still think it looks amazing. I'm excited about it. I remember when this all dropped, I right away sent it to Jaws D, because me and Jaws D were huge marks for Car Robots when it was brand new, let alone when it got brought over in 2001 for Robots in Skies. When we were in college in 2000, shows how old we are, we were so hyped about this just because it was this Japanese exclusive design, and we loved those figures when we got them in hand. And Jaws D, he went to New York and picked up both Optimus Prime and Ultra Magnus even before me, and just amazing stuff. But here's where I get, and maybe not so much the bad, but again, let's do the inside baseball part of it. So Evan even confirms this. They're 2 Commander class figures. The Blue Bolt is a deluxe. They're asking $249.99, simple math, $250, right? So Commander classes today, our modern MSRP for Commander classes are $89.99, simple math, $90. So you're talking $180 for Ultra Magnus and Optimus Prime. Obviously they're going to put some blast effects and stuff to pad that out, but for sure. The deluxe class, the Blue Bolt, transforming little weaponizer. This is Evan's words, not mine. So that's $25, $24.99. That puts us up to $205, right? So how do you close that gap? Where's that $45 that of the asking price here for just tier 1? Well, that's where they bake in already. Regardless of if we get the tiers or not, they're planning the pricing with the tiers succeeding. So that extra $45 is the sword, is the space bridge, and is the whatever tier 3 is going to be. So the sword, that's some big plastic right there. The space bridge and the stands, those are just big shells of plastic that just take space and cost. And then whatever the tier 3 will be, 2 little spy changers or, like an Ai-chan articulated figure, whatever they do, that's factoring in that $45. And considering how much deluxes cost today, that $45 with whatever else they're going to include will probably close that gap with the sword and space bridge. So is it good or bad? I will say this, it's right on the number. It's right on the number. When I looked at some of the others, when I look at Deathsaurus, they really padded that out to get to what that number is. A lot of stuff that really a lot of people could have lived without. Or this one here, it ends up right to the penny what it should be, assuming that we get a tier 3 and they throw in some extra stuff. Otherwise, it's slightly overpriced, but only slightly. But it is what it is, so I'm going to be honest with that on the inside, money. So, and then, of course, in my opinion, and this comes from Evan too, he even said in the stream,
we're never doing a Prime as a Haslab.
Well, that's because I said that. That was me being dumb.
But yeah, so
I should have never said that we'll never do an Optimus as a Haslab, because that was my stance. Look, if a Hasbro guy says they're never going to do an Optimus as a Haslab, I think we should believe him. And I kind of agreed with that statement in the sense that because now that this is a Now that this is unfortunately, and I say this unfortunately in a negative way, that it is a Hasbro Pulse exclusive, don't expect any repaints or retools from these molds. They're locked in here, and that's about as it is going to go, unfortunately. Where if these would have been retail items, let's say these were 2 commander classes sold, at the same time, or at least maybe a year apart, and then that, the Blue Bolt could be a deluxe class sold in just a wave assortment. This could have been something that could be more massively purchased at an $89.99 price point, and could also open it up to repaints later on, the yellow repaints or anything like that. You want to do Blackfire Convoy, which was a thing. So there's a few fun things that could be done there too. So now that it's a Haslab, unfortunately, all of that, both a slight affordability and stuff like that, protects it. But then there's the other protection thing, which is a lot of our commander classes and our larger price point stuff have gone on clearance and ended up in clearance in a lot of places with Transformers. By it being Haslab item, there is no, hey, we're going to go to Ollie's and see boxes and boxes of this guy. So there's that too. So, I think it's going to be on the number. I think that what we're going to get as a product will right away come to it. Much like Deathsaurus, we're going to get a big fancy box with chrome and everything on it that, in all honesty, adds $15 to the final cost value that, if it was me personally, I could live without, because let's be real, we get those boxes and then we put them in storage. And I don't even want to get into, and I've talked about it on the live streams, how really those boxes are designed in a way that should be used for retail. And if you don't have stuff that's in a retail environment, do you need to have boxes that have that kind of selling point on it? Again, maybe I'm looking too deep into it, but I think it looks great. I think it looks awesome. It's something that does pique my interest. I know I'm going to probably get contacted by Hasbro any moment for how this is going to have to be sent and sold in. But at the end of the day, it is something that interests me. I don't think it's a bad item. I don't think it's a bad choice. I think there could have been better choices for a 40th anniversary, because the longevity of this is kind of suspect, in my opinion. I think that you could have used this as a retail item and gotten more out of it, especially as an Optimus Prime character. But maybe there's something going on here from a Hasbro internal standpoint that is giving us a bigger picture of something of the future. Take from that what you will. Anyways, guys, backing is up right now. Ends March 14th, 5 per customer, $250. Let me know what you think, and let me know if you're down for this. And we'll talk more in the near future, because this is going to be quite an interesting ride.